There's a parking lot at every large company in America that tells you everything you need to know about the relationship between appearance and wealth. Walk through it on a Tuesday morning and you'll see them. Row after row of full-size trucks. F-150s, Silverados, Ram 1500s, mostly crew cab, mostly loaded, mostly gleaming. And if you're being honest with yourself, there's a part of your brain that registers them as a signal. That whoever owns that truck is doing well. That they've earned something. That they belong to a category of person who can afford to drive something that big, that new, that loud. Here's what that parking lot is actually telling you. Statistically, the majority of those truck owners are one unexpected expense away from a financial emergency. The truck isn't evidence of wealth. In most cases, it's evidence of the most sophisticated debt product the American auto industry has ever engineered. And the gap between how that truck makes people feel and what it's actually doing to the person making the payments is one of the most expensive illusions in modern personal finance. My name is George, and today we're pulling apart the full cost stack of the American truck payment. Not just the sticker price, the insurance premium, the fuel penalty, the depreciation math, the dealer extraction mechanics, and the quiet identity trap that gets otherwise intelligent people to sign 84-month loans on vehicles they genuinely cannot afford. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly how the truck became the single most effective wealth transfer mechanism the auto industry has ever built. And it has been hiding in plain sight in every company parking lot in America. We are going to get into real numbers, real data, and two real people whose financial lives looked identical at 29 and look nothing alike at 44. One decision. 15 years. The gap is going to be hard to look at. Let me start with a number that should reframe everything that follows. Thomas Stanley spent decades researching actual millionaires. Not people who look wealthy. Not people with impressive driveways and newer model years in the garage. People who had genuinely built significant net worth over time. And what he found was this. 86% of luxury and premium vehicles on American roads are driven by non-millionaires. Read that again slowly. 86%. The people who look like they made it mostly didn't. And the median price that actual millionaires paid for their most recent vehicle was $31,367. Not $80,000. Not $65,000. $31,367. Often used, almost always practical, almost never impressive from the outside. 61% of households earning over $250,000 drive Toyotas, Hondas, and Fords. Not loaded Super Duty pickups. Not luxury performance SUVs. Practical vehicles that get them from one place to another without extracting over $1,000 a month from their cash flow. The people building real wealth are not announcing it through their vehicle. They are too busy compounding it to bother performing it. So the next time you feel that flicker of admiration in a parking lot, what you are actually looking at in 86% of cases is someone who believed the marketing. And we are going to talk about that marketing in a few minutes because it is genuinely impressive in the same way that a well-designed trap is impressive. But first, you need to understand how the truck got here. Because it did not start as a status symbol. In 1990, the Ford F-150 was a work vehicle. It was dirty. It was basic. Vinyl seats, manual windows, a bed that smelled like whatever job it had most recently finished. The average transaction price was around $13,000. Nobody was buying an F-150 to feel something. They were buying it to move things. Then Ford's marketing division figured out something that changed the entire trajectory of the American auto market. A growing and increasingly profitable segment of buyers did not need a truck. They wanted one, not for any functional reason, for identity. And so began one of the most deliberate, sustained, and successful product repositioning campaigns in automotive history. The F-150 stopped being marketed as a tool and started being marketed as a character. The ads moved from job sites to mountain ranges. The people in the commercials stopped being contractors covered in drywall dust and started being guys who looked like they could be contractors but drove to an office building every morning. Ford was selling capability to people who would never use it. And the rest of the industry followed immediately because the margins on loaded crew cabs are extraordinary compared to anything else on the lot. By 2025, the Ford F-150 had been the best-selling vehicle in America for 47 consecutive years. Not the best-selling truck. the best-selling vehicle of any kind in the entire country. And the average transaction price on a new full-size pickup had climbed to $66,386. The average transaction price, which means half of all new full-size truck buyers are spending more than $66,000. That is not a truck anymore. That is a financial commitment that will quietly reshape the next decade of someone's life. And buyers are signing up for it in record numbers while the industry smiles. Now let me introduce two people I want you to hold in your mind for the rest of this video. Marcos and Derek. Same city, same company. Both work in operations management. Both 29 years old in 2010. Both earning $72,000 a year. Both needed a vehicle. Marcos walked into a Ford dealership and drove out in a new F-150 Super Crew. $52,000 out the door. 72-month loan at 6.8%. Monthly payment, $890. Derek went to a used car lot 2 miles away and bought a 3-year-old Toyota Camry. $17,500. 60-month loan at 7.2%. Monthly payment, $348. Same income, same starting line. $542 a month apart. That number doesn't sound like the difference between two financial lives. Hold it anyway. We are coming back to it, and when we do, it is going to be uncomfortable. Before we get there, let me stack what a truck actually costs, because most people calculate the payment and stop there. The payment is just the entry point. The full cost stack goes much deeper, and almost nobody in a dealership showroom is going to walk you through it. Layer 1 is the payment itself. At $890 a month over 72 months, Marcos paid $64,080 on a truck he bought for $52,000. $12,080 went to interest. $12,080 that built nothing, earned nothing, and exists now only as a memory of monthly transfers. Layer 2 is fuel. A full-size truck with a V8 engine averages about 16 miles per gallon combined driving. A mid-size sedan like a Camry averages around 32. If Marcos drives 15,000 miles a year at an average gas price of $3.50 per gallon, he spends roughly $3,281 annually on fuel. Derek spends about $1,640. That is a $1,641 gap every single year. Over 6 years, that is $9,846 that Marcos spent getting to the same places Derek got to for half the price. Layer 3 is insurance. Full-size trucks cost meaningfully more to insure than mid-size sedans. The average annual premium for a new F-150 runs between $2,400 and $3,200 depending on location and coverage level. A comparable used sedan runs $1,200 to $1,800. Conservative gap, $900 a year. Over 6 years, another $5,400 out of Marcos's pocket that Derek never saw leave his. Layer 4 is depreciation. The average full-size truck loses roughly 38% of its value over 5 years according to ICCAR's 2026 depreciation data. On a $52,000 purchase, that is $19,760 in value quietly disappearing while Marcos made his payments. The truck he bought for $52,000 is worth approximately $32,000 5 years later. Derek's Camry, already 3 years old at purchase, had absorbed the steepest part of its depreciation curve before Derek ever touched it. He lost a fraction of what Marcos lost. Layer 5 is the number that should genuinely disturb you. Opportunity cost. That $542 monthly gap between Marcos's payment and Derek's payment. If Derek invested it automatically into a low-cost index fund at a historical 7% real return, at the end of 6 years he has accumulated roughly $46,000. That money exists entirely because he chose the used sedan. The truck did not cost Marcos $52,000. It cost him $52,000 plus $12,000 in interest plus $9,800 in extra fuel plus $5,400 in extra insurance plus $19,760 in accelerated depreciation plus $46,000 in foregone investment growth. Stack those layers. The real system cost of Marcos choosing the truck in that first ownership cycle alone is somewhere north of $90,000. For a vehicle now worth $32,000. That is the math the dealership will never show you on a whiteboard. Now let me show you how the dealership made it worse on the day Marco signed. Because he did not just buy a truck. He sat in an F&I office first. Finance and insurance. The quiet room behind the showroom floor where the actual extraction happens and where the industry has quietly moved a growing percentage of its profit model. The average dealership now makes approximately $2,534 in pure profit per vehicle from the F&I office alone, up roughly 50% from pre-pandemic levels. That money comes from extended warranties priced at multiples of their actuarial value. From gap insurance sold for $800 to $900 when your own insurance company would sell it for $30. From paint protection packages. From wheel and tire plans. From every add-on that gets slipped into the paperwork while you are exhausted from negotiating, relieved it is almost over, and not reading carefully enough to catch it. But the single largest source of F&I profit is not the add-ons. It is the interest rate markup. The lender approved Marcos at 5.8%. The dealer presented him 6.8%. That 1-point spread goes directly into the dealership's pocket, legally, with no disclosure requirement. On a $52,000 loan over 72 months, a 1-point markup costs Marcos approximately $1,900 in additional interest that he will never see itemized anywhere on the paperwork. He sees a monthly payment. He nods. He signs. He drives home. And $1,900 moves silently from his future into the dealership's quarterly earnings report. That is not bad luck. That is the system working exactly as designed. And then there is the loan term problem that makes everything worse. In Q4 of 2025, more than 20% of all new truck and SUV loans were 84 months or longer. 7 years of payments on a vehicle. The finance manager does not offer 84 months because it benefits you. He offers it because it converts a $1,200 monthly payment on a $66,000 truck into a $900 monthly payment. He is not solving your affordability problem. He is concealing it inside a longer sentence. And by the time you realize you owe $48,000 on a truck worth $35,000, you are 4 years in with 3 years left and no practical exit. You are underwater, in a vehicle depreciating faster than you can pay it down, locked into a loan that requires your income every month regardless of what else happens in your life. Not by accident. By a system that was designed to produce exactly that outcome. Now I want to address the 3 objections that are forming in the back of your mind right now, because if I don't handle them directly, you are going to spend the rest of this video building the counter-argument instead of actually hearing the math. Objection 1. I need it for work. I tow. I haul. I genuinely use the bed. This is the most common defense, and it is valid for a much smaller group of buyers than the industry's sales numbers would suggest. A University of Michigan Transportation Research Institute study found that fewer than 20% of truck owners use their truck bed more than once a month. Fewer than 20%. The remaining 80% are towing capability to the school pickup line, the grocery store, and the company parking lot we talked about at the top of this video. If you are a contractor, a rancher, a tradesperson who genuinely loads materials into that bed multiple times per week, the truck is a legitimate work tool and the economics shift accordingly. But if your truck has never seen a job site, you are not buying utility. You are renting an identity. And that is the most expensive rental agreement most people will ever sign. Objection 2. Trucks hold their value. Partially true, mostly irrelevant. Yes, certain trucks like the Toyota Tacoma depreciate more slowly than the industry average. The Tacoma loses about 34% over 5 years versus the segment average of 42%. But 34% of $66,000 is still $22,440 in evaporated value. Slower depreciation on a dramatically inflated purchase price does not protect your wealth. It just makes the loss feel more orderly. Objection 3. I got a good deal. I negotiated hard. Maybe you did on the sticker. But the money the dealer gave back on the sticker was almost certainly recovered in the F&I office, the loan markup, the add-on products, and the extended term that buried the true cost in a lower monthly number. Winning the sticker negotiation while losing the full cost war is not a win. It is the dealership's favorite outcome because it sends you home feeling like you won while the actual margin is already booked. Here is the part of this conversation that I think matters more than any of the data. Because numbers do not explain why otherwise financially aware people keep making this decision. The truck is not primarily about transportation for most of the people buying it. The industry understands this better than the buyers do. Ford's research team has spent decades building a profile of the F-150 buyer. Not just demographics, psychology, the specific anxieties that this buyer carries about whether he is working hard enough, providing enough, earning the respect he thinks he deserves. And they built a marketing apparatus that tells him with every ad, every campaign, and every carefully engineered commercial that the truck is the answer. That commercial with the F-150 ascending a red rock canyon at sunrise is not selling four-wheel drive. It is selling the feeling of being the kind of man who does that. That ad where the truck tows a boat into a glassy lake at 5 a.m. is not selling towing capacity. It is selling the version of yourself that wakes up before everyone else and has a boat. They invented an aspiration and then sold you the vehicle as proof that you had arrived at it. And it worked so thoroughly that suggesting a used mid-size sedan to a truck owner does not generate a conversation about vehicle economics. It generates a defense of identity. Because in that buyer's mind, the truck is not a depreciating asset with an 84-month loan attached. It is a statement about what he has built, who he is, and what category of person he refuses to stop being. The auto industry spent decades and billions of dollars engineering exactly that response. And by the time he walks into the dealership, the decision is mostly already made. He is not purchasing a vehicle. He is claiming a membership. And he is financing it with 7 years of his income. Let us go back to Marcos and Derek now. It is 2025. Both are 44 years old. Both have had similar career progressions. Both are earning around $105,000 a year. But their financial pictures look nothing alike. Marcos bought a second truck in 2016 when his first one was paid off. He rolled $4,200 of negative equity from the trade-in into the new loan. He bought a third truck in 2022 and rolled $6,800 of negative equity into that one. He is currently making $1,040 a month on an 84-month loan for a truck worth $51,000 with $58,000 owed on it. Underwater again. He has $22,000 in his 401k. He has no meaningful taxable investment account. His net worth outside of home equity is approximately $31,000. He drives a beautiful truck. He cannot retire. He will statistically still be working past 67. Derek paid off his Camry in 2015, drove it for 3 more years, bought a used Honda Accord in 2018 for $21,000, and paid that off in 2022. He has not made a car payment in over 3 years. Every month since his first Camry payoff, he has automatically transferred the payment difference into a low-cost index fund. 15 years of consistent investing puts his portfolio at approximately $340,000. His total net worth outside of home equity is just over $390,000. Same city, same company, same income, same starting line at 29 years old. One vehicle decision repeated 3 times. A $360,000 gap. That is not a rounding error. That is a retirement. So here is the practical framework. Because this video is not about making you feel bad about a truck you already own. It is about giving you a decision structure that removes the identity layer and leaves you with the actual math the next time you are sitting across from a finance manager. Step 1. Calculate the full cost stack before you sign. Not the payment. The fuel gap versus the alternative vehicle you could have bought. The insurance premium difference annually. The projected depreciation over your realistic ownership period. The opportunity cost of the payment difference invested conservatively. At all of it. That is the real number. It will almost always be 2 to 3 times the sticker price when you run it honestly. Step 2. Get pre-approved through your own bank or credit union before you walk into any dealership. Navy Federal, PenFed, your local credit union. Lock in your rate. Bring the paper. The dealer can try to beat it. They cannot mark it up. You just protected yourself from the single largest hidden cost in the F&I room without doing anything complicated. Step 3. If you genuinely need truck capability for work, buy used. A 3-year-old truck with 35,000 miles has already absorbed the steepest depreciation drop. You get the utility at a dramatically lower entry point. The bed does not care whether you were the original owner. Step 4. Ask yourself one honest question before you sign anything. Would I still want this exact truck if nobody could see it? If the answer is no, you are not buying transportation. You are buying an audience. And that is consistently the most expensive purchase in personal finance. Here is the line I want you to walk out of this video with. The truck in the driveway is not proof of success. It is proof of access to credit. And those are two entirely different things that the auto industry has spent half a century making sure you cannot distinguish from the road. The people quietly building real wealth are in paid-off Camrys and used Accords, running automatic transfers into brokerage accounts that do not have a chrome grille or a tow package. They are not announcing anything. They do not need to, because the number in the investment account is the only number that will matter when it is time to actually stop working. And nobody will ever see that number from a parking lot. Marcos is still making payments. Derek is mapping out an early retirement. Same job, same income, different truck. That is the entire game. It has always been the entire game.